Bom, gente, estamos aqui bem no iniciozinho do segundo dia do DOF e agora eu consegui uma entrevista com o Rikki Tahta da La Mama Games, que é o autor do Coup e diversos outros jogos, inclusive dois estão sendo lançados aqui no DOF, o Infiltrado e o Acuse, ok? Good morning, Rikki.
Good morning.
First time in Brazil.
First time in Brazil, second day. I have just had an incredible welcome.
Oh.
I mean, I got to say, I love, what's it? Eu amo brasileiros. Yeah.
It's almost perfect now.
Yeah, it's fun.
The first thing I want to know is, can you tell us about a little about the development of Coup?
Sure.
Because it's one of the best sellers of Grok games since Grok games wasn't Grok games, since the time from Funbox, and is a very interesting game. And how was the development of the game?
Okay, well, I liked playing a lot of cards. I grew up playing a lot of cards, playing a lot of bridge and a lot of poker. But for me, poker is a great game, but the interesting bits happen in very few occasions. In other words, the bluffing happens in very few occasions. And for poker to be interesting, you need money. Mm-hmm. And I don't like losing money, and I don't like winning money from my friends. But without the money, there's no tension. Mm-hmm. There's no fear of losing. But I loved the bluffing element. So I tried to create a game that had that fear, the fear of, well, I'm out of the game, I have to sit here and be bored while everyone else plays. And the bluffing and the statistical element that you get from poker and bridge. And I tried to develop it, and it took me a while. So I came up with the basic mechanics in maybe a couple of weeks, and then it took me 6 years to get the rules simple enough so that everyone instantly understands it, and yet create enough balance and decisions so that when people played, they felt it was all about reading the other players. Anyway, that was the genesis. And for me, games are about people. For me, games are all social. So that's true with Acuse and Infiltrado. A game, for me, is playing with other people, is getting up from a table and being friends with someone you've never met before. And that's why I'm very proud of Coup, because people, write to me from all over the world and say how much fun they've had, how it's introduced them to games. Well, that's it. That's how I make games.
Nice. And do you ever in your wildest dreams thought about a Coup with the Disney characters?
No. That was it. And to be honest, the first time I saw it was yesterday. I mean, I knew it was happening, but I didn't really believe it. And also, I have a little bit, they did a fantastic job as to how to manage the characters and to manage the world. But Coup is quite aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why in some countries they don't like it. So what's very interesting is Coup is not popular in Germany. Mm-hmm. It's very popular in France, it's popular in England, very popular in America in the college world, very popular in South Korea, not very popular in Australia. It's strange how some cultures gravitate towards it and some don't like the in your face.
Because the costumes and the people, the behavior of the people.
That's not only that, but the fact that you're out, you're knocked out. It's the player elimination. It's a game.
The player elimination.
Yeah, it's a game where someone loses. Disney is not really about losing. It's about everybody joining in. But they did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
They did a great job, and then it looks beautiful. Yeah.
And we are if you could look at the other side, we are making right now Coup championship here during the Diversão Offline, and I heard that you developed some rules specific for championships. How was this happen, and how did you develop this?
Okay, again, every time I make rule changes or game changes, I take a long time. I test a lot because you can't discover how something works without having groups of people play, because humans do things differently. You can sit there with a spreadsheet or a model and say this is how a game should work, but when you get live humans with their emotions playing, it changes a lot. So the key rule that I wanted to change was, and this really only makes sense if you understand Coup, is that when you play Coup, if you have enough coins for a coup, you can target one player and they're out of the game. So if you're a good player or people are frightened of you, you can be pushed out of the game through no fault of your own. So I wanted to eliminate that, where perhaps two friends at the table could get rid of
the
a third person. So I wanted to eliminate that so that someone who had skill at reading players and bluffing, that skill would come out and that they are more likely to win. And so the major change for the tournament is that a coup costs 10 coins and everybody else loses a life. So it's more expensive but more devastating.
Okay.
And then that way, you're not targeting an individual player. Exactly.
Nice.
So that was the bit that I was concerned about. And then the second bit I wanted to add a sort of a scoring system, so that if you played multiple games, you had I've introduced a doubling dice. You can sort of force people out by raising the stakes. So I've added another element of, not quite bluff, but push your luck, raising the stakes, as it were. So I'm very keen to see how it goes, because it's the first time those new rules have been tried.
Whoa,
They were going to
nice.
try, they're going to try it in Gen Con this summer, but I wanted to see it happen here first.
Nice. And I know the other games from La Mama Games, they're quite unusual games. For instance, there are the games that you make with your children.
Yeah.
There's one with throwing
Yes.
cubes in
You
the
said,
castles.
wow, remember that.
There is the Rips, Hipster not, is the one. Rankster is a very nice game.
Fantastic game. I love Rankster.
Where come all this out-of-the-box ideas? Because these are not really usual games. They are games that bring some really out-of-the-box ideas.
Thank you. How lovely. What a lovely compliment. Thank you very much. Because
You are welcome.
that's the compliment I give to Friedman Fries, who I think is the top designer.
Yeah. For me also, he is very. He experiments a lot.
Yes.
And brings always something quite new, quite different from what we see everywhere.
Yes, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, but makes no difference.
but
Makes no
I
difference. The
admire
idea
his-
is nice.
Yes, so a lot of my ideas come by accident. I start somewhere and I end up somewhere else. The castle building game, usually I'm taking two ideas and working with them. So the castle building idea was a game called Super Rhino. I don't know if you know, it's like
Yeah.
Super Rhino, you build it up. Well, I liked playing that game, but then we started knocking each other's, knocking the best bit. It's like in Jenga. The most exciting bit is when the thing falls down.
Yeah.
So I was saying, well, how can you have more of that?
Uh-huh.
How can we have that game where there's more knocking down? And so we just started playing at the kitchen table, my daughter and I, and then we started flicking things, and that started coming out of that. It was just experimenting. And again, that took 3 years. I don't rush it. I've got lots of games that I'm working on, some of which will never succeed. I have one game that's an infection game, a sort of contagion game. I've been working on it for 9 years. I don't think I'm ever going to succeed in making it.
You work on that before the pandemic.
Before the pandemic, yes, exactly. Otherwise, Rankster started something completely different. That started during the pandemic, where I wanted a quiz game where my idea was there were so many quizzes in the pandemic. Everyone was playing quizzes. But the trouble with a quiz is you either know the answer or you don't. I mean, where's the fun? I mean, if I know the answer, I feel good.
Usually don't have bluff or anything like that.
There's no. If I don't know it, I can't participate. So I wanted a quiz game where everybody knew the answer, as it were, but there was anyway. That's how I started thinking about it. I want to play a quiz where it's the fun of the quiz, but everybody, no matter what their knowledge is, could participate. And so I've come up with a couple like that, of games like that. But Rankster was the most successful, and it was successful, and it's coming out in France. Well, it came out in France this year, and it's coming out in America in a few months. It is the most successful game in my family, it's the one that comes out the most often because it gets people talking. And it's a game where someone who's standing by, who is not playing, listens and joins in and can join the game and then leave the game. But whereas the game, it's all about talking. It's all about that. And that for me comes back to what I love about games. It's about making connections. It's about friendships, that it's just a way of understanding and learning about people that isn't stuck in our who are you, what do you do, you know, where do you live.
Nice. And what can you have two new games in Brazil now.
Well, let's talk about this one, because this one is Acuse. This is, I mean, this came out yesterday. And it's the first time, this one came out first in Brazil. It's coming out in Europe and America later this year. But the guys at Grok really wanted to get it done for the show. And it's beautiful, and it's just the right size for the weight of game. This is a murder deduction. It combines three things. A bit of deduction, there's a murder and you've got to work out who did it. A bit of push your luck, so you've got to wait and see how long as the clues emerge. When do you decide you're going to make the accusation before other people? And a little bit of bluff, a little bit of hiding information. So there's a bit of that social interaction. I want to fool you. I want to hide the clues from you and keep them hidden while I try and find the other clues, keep the clues I know hidden, so that I can guess first. I'm very fond of this. And it works for two. I think it's best for 2 or 3 players. Whereas this one is great for a whole family.
For many people.
Yeah, 6 or 7. And this is good for 4 or 5.
And Infiltrado, it's a game that when I read the rules first, I thought, whoa, this is something like the Spyfall.
Yes,
but with categories and more open world, I would say. Yeah,
you know, you're exactly right. And there were 3 games that inspired this one. Fake Artist Goes to New York.
Oh yeah,
which came before Spyfall. Spyfall, which took Fake Artist and did something better, and then Codenames, which also has that lovely idea of the single word.
Yeah,
How do you boil down a series of thoughts into a single word? So I took those 3 games because I loved all 3 of them, but for me they all had slight flaws. Spyfall is probably the closest, but Spyfall has too many cards.
Yeah, and you have the packs. It's really complicated to do.
Yeah, but it's a great game. Don't get me wrong.
It's
a great game.
Yeah. I have it. I play it a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, so I boiled down all those 3 things into a game, and this is my wife's favorite, actually. Yeah. In Europe, and in America, it's more popular than Coup. It's called it's called Chameleon. It's a big family game that Coup is considered a bit more hardcore. I mean, not compared.
Okay.
But for this is very much a family gateway game.
Nice. Yeah. And can we expect something new for the Spiel this year?
No. I have this year. We're working on a game that so we come out, as you said, with 1 new game every year at Spiel in Essen. And this year we're working on a game. I hope we're going to get it done. I've got to look at the artwork today. That has another very interesting mechanic, but is developed by one of my closest, oldest school friends from the age of 7. He and I have been playing games together, which involves raiding. It's sort of Norse raiders, and it has a very interesting mechanic where you play out cards based on, you're trying to work out where other people are attacking, and you either withhold your cards or play them out, making a guess as to where people are attacking. It's a very interesting mechanic that he's come up with, that we're coming out with this year.
Nice. Then I hope to see you there.
Yes, brilliant. Okay. I hope so, likewise. And I hope there's a hug.
For sure.
There's a lot more hugs in Brazil than there are in Germany.
That's for sure.
So bring some over.
Thanks a lot for your time, and have a nice time here in Brazil also.
It's great so far. Thanks everyone for the welcome.
Thanks.